Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We got a really exciting presentation for you planned today. Your CRNA career game plan from job interview to final offer. Part one, actually, there's a part two coming up soon. We're going to help you stand out in every interview, give you some CV strategies and prep tips, and I'll talk about the panel that's here today in just a second. All right. Great group, great friends on this call. We have Katie Moeller, Senior Director of Recruiting at Jackson Physician Search. We also have Justin Richter, Chief CRNA and Director of Anesthesia Operations at AANA Health, Abbott Northwestern Hospital. And then myself, Jared Collins, EVP of Strategic Partnerships of the Motion AANA Career Exploration Platform. Just want to say a couple quick things, housekeeping items before we dive in today. You will see a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to utilize that anytime throughout the presentation. We love to get questions from the audience, and we will field those throughout the course of the webinar as quickly as we possibly can. And without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton to Katie Moeller to kick it off.
Thanks so much, Jared. Hey, everyone, I'm excited to spend the next hour with you. And Justin, thanks for joining. Justin is a very close professional partner of Jackson Physician Search and AANA in Motion. I actually assist with recruitment at his organization. And as we were thinking about how do we craft a presentation today that provides meaningful value to you as CRNAs. We know that hearing from practicing CRNAs and hiring leaders is probably going to be the most impactful. So Justin and I are going to take it from here and basically talk through CV strategies and interview prep, know what you want in a job, and understand what employers are looking for during the interview process. But before we dive into that real quick, Justin had a question he would like to ask all of you. And if you wouldn't mind weighing in the Q&A section, that would be great. But Justin, you want to ask?
Yeah, I know that this, I just wanted to understand and appreciate how, hi everyone, I'm Justin Richter, Chief CRNA and Director of Anesthesia Operations. Good to meet everyone. I just wanted to understand how many of those on the webinar are not currently in training, those that are practicing as a CRNA, just to kind of understand a little bit more about our audience, to give you the best information that's going to be the most valuable for you.
Yeah, just type out a me or a thumbs up or something. And Jared, if you get a tally going, give us a shout, okay? Thank you. And with that, we'll go ahead and jump right in. I think the first thing to really explore is, when should you start your job search? And best practice is usually considered to be at least 12 or 18 months in advance. It's a good time to start putting your CV together, doing some initial applications, connecting with recruiters, and hopefully, ideally, prior to training, you want to be about 6 months out and have your job offer accepted. The goal here is to be in a position to secure the job you want and not feel like you're in a place where you're choosing between two options and you're not excited about either of them. The world is your oyster as long as you give yourself enough time. On that note, Justin, I mean, from your perspective, tell us a little bit about AANA and like the size and scope of your CRNA program and typically the timeline that you start hiring students.
No, Katie, thanks. That's a great question. As a CRNA myself and graduated and started practicing 7 years ago, can relate to many of you. Don't worry, the black cloud that chases all of you students around will be over soon, and you'll study for boards and you'll be practicing on all on your own. So hang on, and it's well worth the ride. And you are already appreciating, and the couple that are, the few that are on here that understand this even more, is as you're going through all of your clinical experiences, you're kind of demonstrating a live interview as you go. So I think kind of every day there's obviously plenty of job opportunities, and it's not just going to be limited to your rotation experiences, but that's just one thing to call out here is, you may not be officially applying, but you're building those relationships, and in most fields, those relationships really do also as another key component, along with representing yourself professionally, like we're going to talk about with the interview opportunities, but also the CV opportunities. I guess one call out to timeline that I may also want to point out is any facility like at AANA, Abbott specifically, and some of the other hospitals. We currently have a stipend program that you accept a job offer to maximize that opportunity. At that point, you would want to accept a job at the 12-month mark. So it just kind of depends on, you may be thinking about accepting a job if the financial incentives are part of the plan and it's where you want to work. Maybe another factor that goes into the decision-making process. Certainly not the only one, but being that you are assuming a large amount of debt and out of really much income during the time of school, it's definitely weighs into the process. So really that you may be thinking about considering accepting a job closer to that 12-month mark potentially. So at least those of those that rotate through here or that we're seeing here are considering that a little bit earlier than what you would see traditionally. So
I mean, 2,000 a month makes a big difference. Yep. It's, 12 or 24,000 leading up to starting your first job. So, and that's something we see broadly speaking in the market. And I think it's something, to keep in mind. But so now let's say you're officially decided to start your job search, but maybe you haven't updated your CV since you started school. Where do you start? Like, what do you have to have? What's nice to have? What things should you avoid? These elements I would say are a little maybe elementary, but it's good to review. You have to have your contact information, education and qualifications, employment history, clinical experience, and certifications and licensure. Justin, from your perspective, when you're reviewing CVs, and I know you get dozens a month, what makes a CV stand out to you in a good way?
No, thanks for asking that. I think a CV, the core components that go in here, you've highlighted very nicely. Some of the things that I think that are very helpful to still call out to make it stand out, or anything that contributes to the individual being a team player. So it might not just be focused on, I know that sometimes the emphasis is only put relevant information on a resume, but a true CV is an opportunity to paint a little bit more of a picture of your experiences that might not be only relevant to nursing and anesthesia practice. So it might be certain experiences that you've had in other job fields prior to nursing or anesthesia, being an anesthesia provider that segues very nicely into that. I guess a big don't call out is in a little bit here. So sorry that if I'm jumping ahead, Katie.
No, you're fine. We can go there. Yeah.
Is not to make sure that it's formatted. To me, most of your target audience in this is likely going to first step, which you'll get to, but once it gets into the hands of a CRNA, most of us are type A, which doesn't mean that we're the only exclusive type A's. And if it doesn't format correctly, it does for some reason. It's a big distraction to when you're reading through a resume. So I don't know, just wanted to call that out. There's plenty of time to work on it and get the formatting right as you're working through in school. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Some other pitfalls to definitely try and avoid. Make sure you have dates in there at minimum, the month and year, even better if it's the actual date. And if there is a gap for any reason in your employment history, et cetera, that's fine. Provide a one-sentence explanation. It's better to proactively explain than to leave questions unanswered, I'd say, in terms of dates and timelines. The other thing, make sure your contact information is up to date. If you actually use your school email for everything and you're going to use it forever, that would make you in the minority. But sometimes what happens is you'll have an old or out of date or school email on your CV, but maybe that's not the one you're actually using to communicate. And unfortunately, it can mean you miss out when, Justin emails you back to schedule a site visit or something like that. So just
It happened.
yeah.
It has happened. Yeah. And then thankfully I've had another way of gathering that information and can cross check. So yeah, definitely double check that. That's a good call out, Katie.
Yeah. Typos and errors, obviously proofread. That's kind of on the same level with formatting. Just take the time to get it right. And my personal pet peeve is overusing AI. I think AI is great. We're all starting to use it more in our day-to-day workflows, but as it becomes more part of everyday life, we're all becoming so much better at recognizing it when we see it. A funny thing that I have seen a lot lately is like a sentence, something along the lines of, I bring X, Y, and Z skills to the table, allowing for a seamless transition. I mean, that sounds weird to say in normal conversation, so it really shouldn't be on your CV. Like, what does allowing a seamless transition mean? So just kind of gobbledygook AI writing like that, make it conversational, real person, and genuine. And even if the words aren't as flowery, it will be better overall. Another thing that we encourage is considering adding a brief professional summary statement, maybe like 2 or 3 sentences at the top of your CV. Reason being, you never know who's going to be the first, second, and third set of eyes on your CV. It could be a recruitment partner. It could be internal HR director. Could be Justin, who's CRNA. From only looking at your employment history and your education, think to yourself, would somebody be able to just intuit or know why you're interested in this job that you're applying for? Maybe so. If you went to school in Minneapolis and the job's in Minneapolis, okay, we can make some conclusions there. But a lot of times it's really not obvious. And so just having, a few sentences saying, looking forward to establishing a successful practice in the community I grew up in. I'm particularly interested in Minnesota, and I'm excited, to have the opportunity to grow and develop and hope to have mentorship as I, am in my first job out of training, something like that. I just came up with that out of nowhere. So hopefully that didn't sound ridiculous. But these are the kind of questions you want to ask yourself, and maybe just provide a little blurb at the top. Again, because people take like 30 seconds at that first look, and you want to do whatever you can to get in front of assumptions and proactively say like, hey, here's why I'm interested in this job. If you are customizing this for each job you apply to, awesome, love that. Also, I understand that sometimes people don't want to do that and they want to have one boilerplate CV, and maybe it has, still a professional summary statement. All I'll say here is the danger is to potentially pigeonhole oneself. If you say you're looking for 1099 positions in coastal cities, probably not going to be prioritized if you're applying in downtown Chicago for a W-2 position. So just keep in mind your audience and ideally customize your CV appropriately. With that in mind, I'd say, Justin, any other CV points or questions from the audience as it relates to CVs? And if not, we'll transition to interview prep.
I think you stated it, making sure the contact information is correct. Also, if you are going to write the professional summary, I think it is valuable as long as you keep it somewhat concise. Sometimes you can take that opportunity and do a little bit of homework and relate it to some of the goals or of the institution that you're applying to, as long as you can keep it somewhat brief, just because that may or may not be as applicable to as it gets more downstream to the CRNA leadership as you get first pass on the HR, and of those that connects potentially more likely to connect with them, and they're a lot of times writing up a little summary of their initial intake. If it gets past that to their initial intake with HR, that's getting passed along. So that all of that kind of paints that picture. Yeah. And then making sure if you do write a professional summary that you remember to update that as you send it and attach it to other sites, so that it's not stating one state or identifying a city that's not accurate again. So yeah, that was
We'll
good.
still probably talk to you. We're just gonna be
Yeah.
a little curious about why you're applying
Sure.
for the job. That's all.
Yep.
But okay, well, in that case, let's talk a little now about interview preparation and how to make the most of it, whether it's a virtual interview or a site visit. Our stance is that the best way to prepare for an interview is to know what your personal priorities are in a position. Once you can articulate what you want in a job, interviewing provides the chance for you to gather evidence about the job and organization and figure out if it can deliver what you want in a professional opportunity. As someone who has been in the provider recruitment and healthcare consulting space for about 7 years now myself, when I'm talking to people who are coming out of training, I like to break this up into 4 buckets. I'm sure we could make this more complicated, but this is me trying to make it less. I think we all have to think about what's most important to us. Is it geography? Is it the type and scope of your practice? Is it compensation, work-life balance? I'm guessing all, if not most of you, are probably going to say it's some mix of all of those, and that's a fine answer. I think the next step from there is, if you had to prioritize them, what's most important? I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I want to be near my family and my brothers and sisters, my parents. That'd be a priority number 1 for me. Some of my friends, when they've considered, where to live their lives, it's, I could be flexible on that. But, for example, one of my friends who's a CRNA, she really wanted to have a fully independent practice. So that was going to also factor into her search. I need to be in a part of the country. I need to be in a community size and a hospital size, and the hospital environment where practicing at top of license is really facilitated and encouraged. Or maybe it's, I have a lot of student loan debt and I want to get that paid off ASAP. I really need to prioritize as competitive compensation and recruitment incentives like signing bonuses or training stipends as possible, or work-life balance. And a little caveat on work-life balance, I think we can say that and everyone defines it really differently. So Justin, let me pull you in on this. When you think about kind of what matters to you and your CRNA peers, or, people at AANA, when you've been interviewing them, what do you hear from people? Is it vacation? Is it amount of call? Is it knowing your schedule? Is it the ability to have a flexible schedule? I feel like all of these could be aspects to consider to some extent.
No, yeah, no, you're right. It all does. One other call out I wanted to mention, backing up just a second, was there are applicants that may be looking to do a leadership role, maybe not right away, but they may have done one in a nursing role before, or in a previous career. And so that might be something that they're interested in. And just like you said, kind of identifying if you're going to a facility that's it's looking like there could be turnover in that area at some point, or they're just kind of on the early stages of change management or anything that's changing there. Sometimes those can be great opportunities to get in on the ground level, and you're not looking to do that right away. Possibly if you're just coming out of school, but maybe in the first 6 to 12 months, that's an anticipated goal. So, but as far as at Abbott Northwestern here in Minneapolis, we found that at our facility, some of the attractors have been knowing, yes, being able to have a block schedule is very important for planning purposes, for yourself individually or with families. So being able to march that out, really honestly, not just 2 or 3 months when it's published, but for the entire year, that is found very helpful. In that other kind of bucket, if work-life balance, like you stated, it may be having a lot of opportunities to. We run a lot of shifts here that go late into the evening that provide a lot of opportunities for to work those block schedules and have multiple days off a week, but still be 0.8, 0.9 or a 1.0 provider. And so then you have a lot of opportunity to spend that with your family, do whatever you would like on your personal life, or a lot of earning potential at our facility to pay those school loans off, or to go take your family to Disneyland, or put a hot tub, or having it finish out your basement. And if that's not what you're interested in, then that is, there's no pressure obviously to do that, but having those opportunities there is super helpful. But those are the kind of the big highlights. Schedule and then earning opportunity are probably some of those. And then, the off-site, off-shift, and like beeper call and vacation requesting. I know at our facility, we some are seniority based, so it's kind of helpful to kind of understand that. So and this kind of segues into obviously your clinical sites. You're focused on taking care of the patient, be asking these questions, but also when you're interviewing, making sure that you're doing a site visit and getting with frontline staff. If it's not provided as an option, request it. We provide it if you come here and do an on-site campus tour and an in-person interview. We make sure that you're getting with some frontline staff to talk about how is it when you're requesting vacation, right? Because sometimes from leadership, we understand how it works, but you want to hear that information from somebody that's making those requests and validating what we're saying in those interviews. So that's very helpful. So we don't have seniority based. You get put in a group and it's very fairly distributed, and all parties have found that very valuable. And so those are kind of some of the highlights and things to be looking for when you're interviewing and going to sites to tour, or in your clinical experience providing in your rotations.
And before we get into a few more of these questions, we'd suggest considering asking so that you learn more about whether a job fits with what you're looking for. I think another important thing for us to address, though, is in today's day and age, yes, you could consider W-2 employed positions with full benefits. We also know that some want to consider traveling or 1099 or locums type positions. And I don't want to get into a whole thesis on, the various types of practices and pros and cons and that sort of thing. But I think at the end of the day, I'm excited for y'all because you're in a great spot. We all know that CRNAs are in really high demand. I think I've said it before, but the world is your oyster. It's just a question of what oyster you want. And at different ages, stages, career points, that may change. And Justin, I don't know if you have any kind of comments on that, maybe based on your own career trajectory, or any friends or colleagues you've worked with over the years and kind of what you've observed in that regard.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's definitely a high demand, and so understanding what it is that you're looking for, I would say that I would discourage any of the new graduates coming out looking to do 1099 and locum work, travel work right away. Just for the mere fact that your orientation here, we do utilize travelers here, and we actually are way above kind of the local and national standard of what we provide for orientation, which is 3 days. Most facilities, you're kind of expected to arrive ready to do kind of any case at any time with maybe half a day or a full day of orientation, and that is it. So you want to be cautious, since your license is on the line of kind of getting in over your head. At some point, it could be the perfect opportunity, but I would discourage it right away. But yes, you're right. There are a lot of opportunities to be considering, whether that's the care team model, work-life balance, what meeting with the frontline staff, under making sure that there are enough of the seasoned staff, experienced staff at those facilities to mentor and facilitate and provide that good learning experience as you're going to be starting your new career. I know that even when I started here 7 years ago, and the provider still works here now, has identified that really quickly. And we do have a handful of providers that have worked at this institution at Abbott for 15, 20 plus years, that can provide that. And that provider still works here now. And it's just really nice to have there was a lot of support here. There still is, and that provider still works here. But I encourage anybody at any site to always identify somebody that they can have that open relationship with right away as kind of a mentor. Yeah,
I love your point, Justin, earlier about the importance of, yes, you want to hear what leadership, both administrative and clinical, has to say about what the program can offer and what they're looking for in a new CRNA. But you also want to hear it from the people who are going to be your colleagues. I think we can all recognize that that frequently feels like the most, I don't know, transparent form of truth. They don't have anything to gain or lose from it. It's just the life that they live, and they can weigh in on it and tell you what their day-to-day looks like. I also liked your point a lot about orientation and keeping in mind, like, what sort of onboarding are you actually getting or not? And yeah, Abbott is beyond the national standard by doing 3 days for travelers. But my understanding is it's like a number of weeks for incoming permanent.
Correct. Yeah, you're going
right?
to be you're going to be getting 8 weeks for incoming permanent. If you do not do a rotation through here, then we've done 10 to 12 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so you're going to get 2 to 3 months worth of opportunity to rotate to all of the different areas here. We do a lot of high risk CV here, high risk OB. We're trauma level 3, so there's not the whole trauma component. So there's not a lot of rotation or orientation to that, but just to make sure that everyone that comes through here is feeling comfortable and confident and providing, have the opportunity to get to all the audit department areas and our vascular cath labs and all of that. So we have over 50 anesthetizing locations, and we want to make sure we provide you're not going to see every single type of case, but we do heart transplants and left ventricular assist devices, so LVADs, ECMO in the heart hospital ICU. So there's a lot going on here. We don't have a burn unit or do not care for pediatrics on our campus, but nonetheless, there is still a lot of variety, and we try to get exposure to as much of that. And just obviously the built-in time to take care of the admin tasks, make sure you're supported to get signed up for benefits and get familiarized with all of those onboarding items as well.
And I won't run through each of these questions today. I mean, I think everyone can read through them here if you're looking for them. Actually, AANA has a wonderful blog post outlining this in more detail as well. I think another takeaway is it's not just helping you figure out, does this job match what I'm looking for? Asking good questions, thoughtful questions that show you are honestly trying to assess the fit yourself is one of the most attractive things for hiring leaders to see in a candidate. It lets them know you're serious, you're engaged, you're professional, you're thinking about how can I build a successful career here. So questions are really welcome. I think one of the biggest turnoffs, and we'll go ahead and go to the do and don't slide next here, is not having any questions. It's like, even if you've been given a ton of information, have something to ask, even if it's just like clarification, or, this seemed different than, my training program now. Has it always been like this? Why is it like that? It just shows a lot more engagement. I think these are somewhat obvious, but these points still really matter. Be on time, dress professionally, be respectful. I do promise the receptionist, if you're not nice to her, she will tell someone. Be curious, again, ask good questions and actively listen. It's the best when someone says something and you ask them something in return that actually relates to what they were just saying. Try to put your phone on silent and don't check it during the interview. All I'll say is these are easy things to get right. So it does tend to stand out kind of especially bad if you don't take the time to make sure you come across as just a generally professional and engaged human. So I'll get off my bully pulpit on that one. But now on to the actual harder part of interviewing. How do you actually answer interview questions in a substantive and genuine way? What I would encourage everyone to think about is the fact that almost every hiring organization nowadays is up to speed on the importance and value of asking behavioral-based interview questions at some point throughout the process. You may get some on your first initial phone call with someone like me, a director of recruiting. You might get some on your follow-up interview with Justin. If you haven't, you're definitely going to get someone you interview on site, and it might be from one person or several together. It might be in a really formal setting. It might be informal, but the questions are probably going to be thought out. They want to make sure that they understand, okay, how would you behave if you were in this situation? Or how have you behaved in the past in a similar situation? And with that, Justin, I'll let you kind of speak a little bit more about how to prepare ahead of time and maybe come up with like some specific examples, et cetera.
No, yes, thank you. I wanted to touch on the previous slide just for a quick second.
Okay, I'll go back. Sorry.
And I know I'm not providing a good example of this right now because I'm in scrubs, but obviously this is the time, if you don't, for the males or for all inclusive that wants to wear a suit, this is the time to go out and buy just for like, some nice dress clothes. Even though you will be in scrubs for most of your clinical work, I think it's an opportunity for you to make that good first impression. And also, and I have a couple funny stories about that, but I'll be really brief. They're not applicable to myself, but they're firsthand information of one of a colleague of mine showed up to an interview and didn't show up, but was preparing to show up and didn't really realize that they did not have any dress clothes. And he quickly borrowed one of his best friend's clothes that were way smaller than him. So he wasn't able to button the pants, and the belt was holding it together, and the jacket was definitely too small. This was not me interviewing him. This is him telling the story to me about it. And he ended up, by the end of it, splitting the pants. And yeah, so either way, it just goes to show you that, he was still hired. So it's not necessarily going to be an absolute, game changer, but you're going to feel more relaxed if you have prepared yourself, not only in this first impression components, but what we're going to get to in a minute. And I even remember another story that I remember from CRNA school that on the way to a job interview, a student that was in his final months stopped by and borrowed, he had everything but his dress shoes for whatever reason, and stopped by and borrowed one of the clinical instructors, didactic instructors' dress shoes, who went around. The reason we know that is because he was in socks that day and he had to tell us the story of why. So definitely put a little time and planning into these first impression items that Katie highlighted here. I think they're all definitely helpful in making that first impression, as you can't undo that at all. Some make for a funny story, but you don't. Ideally, you're not creating the meme or the funny story, right? You're not part of that.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was hoping you'd have a funny story too there. Yeah, that's really funny about pants splitting.
So based on like kind of the preparation from that standpoint, I remember that was helpful for me to go through, and I'm just a pen and paper person that gets it more rhetorical. That's how I learn best. Everybody's a little different. Many are typing, and that's somehow that is their style of learning and for getting it into their memory. But I would go through these I would use AI in a different fashion and go through what are the common questions, right, that I'm going to be asked, HR related behavioral questions. And I would have kind of pick out like the top 10, and then I would have answers that would be able to be altered to almost fit any question that would get answered, that I would somehow tie that back into my specific example. I think it's super helpful to have specific examples for those. And I think it is not only not having questions prepared can be seeming disengaged from an interview, but also if you definitely want to ideally not say the words, I don't know. And if you can buy yourself a little stalling time, a tactic you can do is request that if you can have a few minutes to think about that while you're answering the next question. And typically that allows you a little bit of time to reflect, and even though you will be answering, you're multitasking in your head. And at the end, if you don't have an answer for it, I think it is definitely appropriate to say that you were not able to provide an answer, but at least it looks that you took the time to think about it. And I think it shows a lot from a professional standpoint that way. But really that preparation of just writing those out. Many times in my interviews, my behavioral questions are worked in to my interview process without having to read it word for word and sounding very
they can be sneaky. You might not exactly know it's coming, but
so
it's there. So pay attention. Yeah.
They are worked in there. The only time that I have to kind of revert back to my questions word for word is if I'm not getting that engagement from the individual, when I'm just trying to talk about life and a lot of different opportunities for the conversation and then I always steer it back to making sure that I get the answers that I want. But then it seems just more natural of a dialogue that's happening and conversation that's happening. However, we're nervous when we come into those. Both parties actually have a little bit of nerves going into it. So I always have the backup questions, and sometimes they do get asked, but either way, they're going to get asked in some way or another. So having those goals defined, that what you see yourself in XYZ years, and having that thoughtfulness put into it really is very, very helpful, and rehearsed, honestly. So,
Yeah. I mean, as a hiring leader, Justin, I mean, is it fair to say at the end of the day, when you're interviewing someone, you want them to talk about things that they want to talk about? You're interested in what they want to share. Yes, there are certain things you need to touch on, but really, I think as we think about what sort of examples or real life anecdotes should you prepare ahead of time, what are things that highlight your strengths? What are you good at? What makes you you? What makes you a good CRNA? Or what highlights specific or really strong training you've received, or something you feel you're really competent in and can really hit it out of the park? Yeah, be prepared to talk about those stories too. Last but not least, I feel like there's always some sort of like, what's your weakness type question. So think about it and find a way to come up with something that's honest. But the way to like switch that question around and use it to your advantage is, instead of like, what's your weakness, or tell me about a time you failed, think about it this way. Tell me about a time you learned from making a mistake. It's your chance to show that you're resilient, and how you overcome any weaknesses. Everybody has to have some. It's more about, what do you do? What work do you put in? How do you overcome it? Because we all know that's the sort of person we want to work with on a regular basis, not one who's like, oh, well, I'm like this and that's just that, and sorry. So anyway, my last point on this is the nerves, Justin. Yeah, there's nerves on both sides of the table, especially if it's a more formal interview setting. Some prep tips that I use myself is, once you've thought of your examples, your stories, your anecdotes that you want to use to highlight, what you would be like in a new position, try imagining yourself in the actual interview. Like, I don't know, paint a picture in your head. I'm in Justin's office right now. I've got stressed out trying to get my car parked. Yep, I was rushing a little bit. I knew I wanted to be at least 5 minutes early. Okay, I'm here now. I'm sitting in a chair, and imagine he just shot a question at you. What does your heart feel like? You might be surprised by your physiological response. Or your hands sweating? Does your voice shake? Like, if you haven't imagined that scenario ahead of time, that body response is going to kind of take you more by surprise and potentially derail you. But if you've just kind of worked it around in your brain a little bit and thought, okay, how would I feel? You're going to be way more prepared to work through that and practice managing those emotions ahead of time, so you can be calm, cool, and collected, which we all know CRNAs absolutely have to be. So it's just really important to be able to demonstrate that in an interview too. But now that we've talked through CV strategies and interview preparation tips, I think the next question to explore is, where do you start exploring the market and potentially finding career opportunities that you'd like to learn more about? Jackson Physician Search, my company, certainly our job board is a great place. But what we really want to highlight today is AANA's career platform, Motion, which, by the way, is where you can find all of AANA's jobs posted. I think it's a great source for that, and hospitals across the country are as well. So, Jared, with that, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Katie. And thanks, Justin. This has been great. I'm learning a lot myself too. So really appreciate the time you guys spent on preparing that, and perfect segues, because this is exciting. I'm sure we have folks on the call today in a variety of, you're approaching maybe your final year, maybe you're a few years out and you're starting to think about, well, where do I go? And maybe you've looked a little bit, but AANA invested a lot of time and energy into this amazing new platform, which was actually launched almost 2 years ago to this day. So it was Seattle 2023 Annual Congress. And it's just amazing what it's become. And I'll show it to you in just a minute. But it's a place where you can actually find virtually everything that's out there. Every position you see, of course, is CRNA only. But the AANA team, the Motion team, took a step back and kind of reimagined the entire job search experience from the ground up, and built an incredible modern platform that shows you the entire ecosystem, all the places you could ever imagine working as a CRNA, without really having to go search from job board to find it. And I will show you it actually right now. We're going to do a live demonstration. So 1 second as I pull this up on my screen. I'm going to go full screen mode. There we go. Maybe a quick thumbs up from Katie. Look good? You can see the map? Perfect. Okay. So yeah, as I shared, completely reimagined. If you've not spent time on it yet, I highly encourage you to get in there. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun and really enjoy it. If you have, maybe this is a little bit of a refresher and perhaps some clarity around certain aspects of it and how to use it, because it's far more than just a job board. It's an incredible map exploration platform, if you will. So I'm gonna zoom out real quickly to include Hawaii and Alaska, so you can see the comprehensiveness of this, and we'll zoom back in. But there's over 11,000 what we call sites on the map. Each site is an individual dot, and each dot is an individual practice. It could be a hospital, it could be an ambulatory surgical center, academic institution, everything else in between, each one being a unique dot on the map all across the country. And let's zoom back into the map a little bit, and we'll stop maybe right around here. I'm gonna go to the Midwest. Oops, thought that might happen. 1 second. Let me refresh my screen. I'm doing a touch screen, so got carried away. Here we go. All right, try one more time. Okay. So we'll get into the Midwest and maybe we'll stop right here. So even in this view alone, right, maybe it feels daunting, but this is the reality. Is there's 3,500 plus locations just in that search. And if we keep going in, I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. I'll show that look of Iowa real quick. You can see 600 even just surrounding states as well. But we've got Justin on the call today, and I know we've been talking about Minnesota. I'm a Vikings fan myself. So let's go north into the Twin Cities and look around. I'll stop right around here so you can kind of see the dots. And this legend over here is your friend, because it tells you exactly what you're going to see on the screen as you zoom in. As we get in closer to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, you'll see a lot of these dots displayed that are plus signs. We call them hiring sites. That one's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll give it a quick little minute overview of what that means. It just means there's at least one job, if not more than, in that particular area. And as you get into the individual dot, you will see the ability to actually click on them. Let's go ahead and click on AANA right here. And we've got Abbott Northwestern with the ability to see a lot about it, right? You can learn about the facility, see some cool pictures. Oftentimes some videos are put in there, really learn what it would be like to work there. And ultimately, you're probably going to want to go view the job description. Tells you a lot about the opportunity, just like you'd expect, with a really easy interface to maybe follow and come back later if you're just not ready that moment, but you want to keep an eye on it, or perhaps you are ready. And if you click that button right there, you have two choices. This is really cool. Most job boards, believe it or not, you're kind of forced to be ready in the moment and apply and have your CV ready. And if you're just not ready, or maybe not even actually truly ready to formally apply to it, you can actually ask just a question through the system and have that fielded by somebody on the other end, someone like Katie or Justin, to actually just answer those questions. And you can type in that message here. If you're ready and you do have your CV prepared, wonderful. I'll show you in just a minute where you can actually use the Motion platform to build your CV and have it ready at a moment's notice to just apply to a job if you see something that you're really excited and want to right then. But this allows you to do either or, truly a preference on your end. There's a lot of jobs around the platform, as you'd imagine, and you could spend time doing that. But I'm going to go a little bit further south from the Twin Cities area. Found this when I was looking just a little bit ago. Yeah, let's go to Faribault. So oftentimes you'll be in an area where you're going to see a green dot without a plus sign. We call those networking, and I'll explain what that is. This is pretty cool, and it really lines up perfectly with the real world scenarios that you probably find yourself in. And by the way, the employers find themselves in too. So at this particular facility, we've got Royal Surgical Associates in Faribault. There's not a job opportunity today. If there were, they'd be posting it as a hiring site and there'd be a job there. But what they're doing is they're just telling you that we're kind of bench building. And it could be because of some growth expected in the area, maybe retirement that's approaching, or just that simple, hey, we're kind of opportunistic. If we met someone that's from this area and wants to get back home, we want to talk to them. And it's a wonderful opportunity for you to engage in those opportunities, even though you're not actually applying to a job. So same kind of thing applies. Maybe you're just going to want to keep an eye on it, or maybe you're ready to ask them a quick note. And again, you don't have to apply with a CV. You could just say, hey, I'd love to see how far out you are. Are you a year out, 2 years out, and why? And what kind of opportunities do you expect to have available? So you're really kind of looking into the future for yourself, but they're telling you to do so because they want to bench build and talk to people about the future. And in the world we're in right now, right, where Katie said it's your oyster, there's a lot out there, but things come and go quickly sometimes. And don't miss these chances to connect with the folks that maybe don't have a job right away today. Let's go back north a little bit. We'll go pick on this dot right here. There's gray dots too. We call them inactive. And what inactive actually means is we just don't know. But we do know that Northfield Hospital in Northfield is a place that hires CRNAs. The data that AANA put together to kind of build this map for you indicates that. Therefore, we know we want it on the platform. We just don't know if they're hiring or not. And there's a really cool way for you to find out, and we'll do it for you, and we'll find out anonymously on your behalf. So I won't read this whole section here. Really, it just breaks it down for you, lets you know exactly what's going to happen if you were to inquire. So say you're ready to inquire and you say, I'm interested. If you still want a little more information about what's going to happen next, click this link right here. It'll tell you this lives on every one of those gray sites, but I'll share it with you today. Basically, you're going to fill this form out. It's going to give a little bit of information for us to understand, why are you interested in that facility, or what do you want us to find out for you? That information comes to the Motion team and we talk to you about it. Literally, we can set up a Zoom call or a quick phone call, or perhaps you prefer an email correspondence. We just want to get a little more information so we can package this up and find out why are we reaching out to them on your behalf. Once we've got that all packaged up, we reach out to Northfield Hospital and inquire on your behalf. We will describe you anonymously, not disclose your information, and we'll find out if they want to meet you. And if they do, wonderful. We report back to you, let you know they're interested, and a match is made and you are on your way. And we truly step back and do nothing else other than hopefully put you in touch with a great opportunity. If you're hired by them, just so you know, it's a revenue stream for the AANA to be able to kind of play that service. So that's kind of why the AANA does this, or Motion does this on the platform. Sometimes they say no, thank you. We're not interested. We're not in a position to be looking at hiring now, and we'll report back to you and let you know that as well. But we've got actively right now actually over 1,000 of these going on currently. So it's a really popular tool and a wonderful way for you, if you think about it, to kind of research an area and have us do the hard work for you to go out and reach out to those gray dots that are on the screen that maybe you just don't know who to talk to or even what questions to ask. We will do it for you. Maybe your heart is set on Minneapolis, St. Paul. You grew up there. You want to get back home. Grandma and grandpa are there, and they want you back home. So one of the best tools, features on the map is to go in and do what we call a market follow. So maybe it's specifically this region right here. I'm not intentionally excluding, I'm just kind of showing an example. So you've got 133 dots in that area right there that it's going to say you're going to about to follow this. You have two options at this point, and I'll share both. Both are really important to know, and it's entirely a preference thing for you at this point. Option one is to type this in. We will call it maybe Minneapolis, St. Paul, and hit follow market. It's as simple as that. You're going to start getting notifications of anything that happens in that geographic area. Option two is to take it a step further and flip the switch here, which says share my profile and my contact information with the employers in the area. And I say that because it's not for everybody, but some of you might find that is a really convenient way to cast a net in a market where you don't maybe have time or prefer to reach out one by one, but you want to give them your information. If you do that and hit follow market, they're going to get your information. Anybody in that geographic region, and I'll go back real quick, anybody that's green. So any employers that are inside that area that are green are going to get your information immediately. In fact, Justin, for example, and Katie, they would get your information immediately. And that's wonderful. They're going to reach out and say, hey, how can I help you? Anybody gray, no, it doesn't go to them. But if they ever turn green and start hiring or networking on the platform, they will get your information. So kind of a cool way to efficiently use that part of the market, the tool. You'll notice filters on the side. I won't go through all of these, but you're going to see different settings that you can kind of select and deselect to narrow your search. Also employment type. Katie talked about earlier, W-2, 1099. And I think Justin had a really good point when he talked about kind of first entering the workforce. I actually sat in on a different webinar a few months ago for AANA and heard the very similar feedback about how to kind of think about that first step into your career. Completely agree, but it's still nice to kind of see what's out there perhaps. So you've got all of that at your fingertips, but you can also sort by people that are going to be in Nashville here in a few weeks when we all go to annual Congress, to those that are going to be in the exhibit hall versus those that are going to the career networking event. Great event where it's like a career fair that we'll all be at. So think about that too in the way you use the search. And coming soon, we'll be rolling out subspecialty very soon as another selection that you can use on the side here. And shortly behind that, we hope, is salary. So you can actually do kind of a search by salary range. And I'll say this, and maybe everybody knows, is that not every state in the country requires salary transparency when you advertise jobs. It's a state by state basis. It's a really hard thing for job platforms to reinforce or enforce if it's not completely done at the state level. So we're in the process of trying to figure out how to accommodate for that, and stay tuned because you will see salary there at some point in time. Here we go. We'll go real quickly into this section, which is your profile. This is just what a sample profile might look like. Click on your name. You can add your picture. That's wonderful. The system already knows who you are. I should say this is an AANA member-only platform. And I believe that everybody on this webinar today is a member. And assuming that's the case, your system literally knows who you are when you log in. So whether you're already logged in or get to the motion page and then log in, it's going to know who you are. But it's not going to know everything. It's going to know your name and your email. That's probably about it. Perhaps your specialty or credentials, but board certification, CV, where'd you go to school? Some really cool things that you can do to kind of spruce up your profile and have it ready so that when you do get to a site that you're interested in applying to, you can click apply, add my CV, and it's already ready to go. You'll have all of this in there. So think about that and kind of maybe spend some time preparing your profile. And there's another section down here, which is really cool. And I'll do that right now, which is what we call layers. There are 4 layers today with more coming soon. I'll just go ahead and say school systems is another thing that's kind of coming in. Think of this as like lifestyle layers. So we all know that in any given city, there's going to always be pockets of places where it's going to cost a little more to live than others. And I suppose with a head nod, Justin can probably confirm that this is a probably pretty good representation of Minneapolis. It's not meant to give you exact home prices, but it is meant to give you direction in terms of thinking about potentially where you might want to buy a home. You've got a little scale here that shows dark is more expensive, light is less. Also, any big city has traffic. Well, we know that, but you can get real-time traffic. So it might be something where you're looking at a certain pocket or neighborhood and you want to see like, what does real-time traffic look like? And this is real-time traffic, and just get familiar with what maybe a commute might look like when you're thinking about where you might want to live and maybe where you might want to practice. Finally, satellite. you know what? Minneapolis is loaded with lakes and lots of water everywhere you look, but maybe you just love stand-up paddleboarding and you want to live and work near where you can go jump on the reservoir or jump on a lake and do that. Well, again, in Minneapolis, you can do that just about everywhere, but not necessarily true in every state. And so find that kind of stuff that's interesting to you, or golf course, maybe that's really important. And you start to look around town, and it's just kind of a nice, cool little thing to help you out as you're kind of navigating areas to practice. And the final thing, flip the switch on and I'll show you what this looks like on the national level, but I imagine everybody's familiar with opt-out states, right? So federal level, supervision authority of an anesthesiologist, but at the state level, right, they can opt out, which allows you to be able to practice without that supervision authority. And we've kind of color coded that with the orange indication versus those that are not. We try to keep this up to date as new laws are passed at the state level. So keeps you informed as to exactly what would it be currently in that state. And just another really helpful tip for you to kind of use as you're thinking about where you want to practice. I am going to pause there real quickly and glance back at our questions because I want to make sure we didn't miss anything. By the way, thank you. We had a couple of really good questions earlier on. Thank you, Justin, for answering those on the fly. Trying to X out here. For whatever reason, there we go. Stop sharing. Okay. Okay. I don't see any new questions, but we also have a few minutes left. So maybe our team here will pause for just a minute. We covered a lot today. If you have any burning questions, feel free to ask them now, and we will absolutely field them before we wrap up.
I didn't know about the layers. That is so cool.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, it makes it really fun, kind of a really neat, takes it beyond just a job search, but adds the lifestyle aspects to it. And school systems coming soon, and we're kind of thinking up other opportunities. And we love feedback. By the way, there's a question mark on the Motion platform where you can just say, "Hey, we'd like to see this," or "What about that?" So give us your feedback anytime, anywhere, and we'll take it into consideration as we keep building out the platform. All right. Well, I didn't see any more questions come in. I'm pretty sure Katie, myself, and Justin will all be in Nashville at Annual Conference. Is that true here in a few weeks? Okay.
Actually, I think maybe
Justin?
Caroline and Anna from Abbott Northwestern and Justin Stead, but I will be there with them, heading up the AANA booth. So come by, say hi. And I know you'll be there too, obviously, Jared.
I will. We're looking forward to it. Oh, maybe we had one last question. Oh, yeah. Is there a way to filter out practice models? That's another one of those kind of coming soon. I'll talk about that real quickly. If you see, thank you for asking that too. If you see some other kind of way you want to slice and dice on the Motion platform, still give us those questions and inquiries. There's a little question mark on the platform. Can't miss it, and just type that in. We're in information gathering mode right now when it comes to practice models. So there's a lot of behind the scenes data that's being collected and gives each practices their model. And we haven't flipped the switch on being able to search by it, mostly because if you did, a lot of the dots would disappear because we haven't collected enough data. There comes a time when we have enough data and we will flip that switch, and I hope that's sooner rather than later. So what you will see is when you click on a dot, if the practice model is known, you'll see it right there in the profile. You just can't search by it yet. So great question. And this is a good one. So great question from the audience. Yeah, is it possible the hospital could misrepresent their salary on the map to gain attention? I'm looking at my old hospital, and the number seems a bit high for what I am hearing through the grapevine. That's interesting. I'll give my 2 cents, and Justin, I might let you chime in, or Katie too, for that matter. We'd like to hope and believe that it wouldn't be a misrepresentation. It might just be a misunderstanding, perhaps like the total compensation package, right? That plays a role in that number, and it might just be hard to interpret what's actually going into the number, right? The whole package or not. That's my 2 cents. But Justin or Katie, what do you guys want to say on that one too?
Yeah, I second that. I will say that also depending on state law, for example, the way Illinois and Minnesota both have pay transparency laws, but they're very different. There's a number of different ways. For example, I can't even remember which state it is, but they say you could count it compensation to be X, Y, and Z, or it could also include A, B, and C. And so even if it's a range or even if it's commensurate with experience, a lot of times, regardless of what job board it is, if our only option is to put in a number, sometimes we have to be able to put more context, whether it's in the text part of the job advertisement or in our follow-up call. At the end of the day, I definitely would encourage everyone, no matter what it says online, to have that as part of your conversation when you have that first, phone interview, to just understand what all goes into it.
Yep. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.